all, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and share your story with us. You are an all-star dad. You're a Spanish teacher. You're a musician. When did your love of music first start?
Oh, it started pretty early in my life. My dad was a guitar player, and my aunts were pianists. They're piano players, and I just remember hearing music in the house from a very early age, like 5. And I remember my dad stopping one time and looking me in the eye and said, "You really sing well. You sing on key." So that was kind of the beginning of the whole thing when I kind of figured out that I had a little bit of musical
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah. And not a little bit, but I won't give it away, but a lot. Tell me how music led you to the love of your life.
Well, Christina was a fan of my band. I have a band here from Orange County,
Mhm.
and she would come out and see us. And I remember asking her to dance one time, and she said no. And I encouraged her to come back again when she was free, and she did. And then I asked her to dance again, and she said yes. So that was it, and we kind of started from there. But
Yeah.
she was a fan of my band. That's how we met.
Okay, got it. Now, was music always a big part of your relationship with Christina? I would assume she was a huge music lover if she was, that dedicated to the band's music.
Yeah, well, Christina was tone deaf. She she had a great she could mimic anybody. She was very funny and very musical, but she sang just a little bit out of key, which I thought was adorable.
Yeah.
And I love to listen to her sing. But she for me, she just took over. She got us organized. I was highly unorganized when it came to running the band, and Christina she told me I needed to buy a computer, so I bought a computer.
Yeah.
She took over and just kind of started doing all the managerial stuff
Yeah.
for the band. We had a rock band, and then I started a big band, like a big Sinatra band.
Oh, wow.
And so she took over both, and she was so good at communicating with people, doing
Okay.
contracts, all the stuff that I was just bad at. She did. She did
She
it.
was the brains of the operation.
Any success that we had outside of the actual performance was due to Christina.
Wow,
So,
that's
yeah.
beautiful. That's awesome. I'm curious to know, because music is something that's been so much a part of your life for so long. How has it served as a source of therapy, really, for you over this past year and a half?
No, it's music heals,
Mm.
and so it's the one thing that, for me, when I needed to grieve, or I needed to have an outlet just to kind of just express myself, it was through music, whether it was writing or listening, or getting up and performing with my bands. And it made all the difference. And there have been times when listening to songs has been painful,
Yeah.
and because you're always triggered by some kind of emotion of having spent that, of her, and just our life together before she passed. And so um, but music has a way of lasting,
Mhm.
and even the sad times, when you listen to a song, the music still is able to kind of touch you and heal you.
Absolutely, absolutely. You decided to audition for AGT. Why?
Well, they called me
Yeah.
and they said, would you be interested in doing it? And first I was reluctant. I didn't know if it was something I was ready to do. I
Mm.
was nervous about it, and I didn't know if I would just fall apart, singing in front of people, that many people, and sing, and really expressing my emotions. If I'm singing like a rock and roll song and it's not really that meaningful, it's easy to do. But when you're really singing, and you're singing from your heart, I was a little nervous that I might fall apart. So I had to find the strength, and I thought, maybe it would be inspirational, not only for me, but for my children, to
Mm.
see that, in spite of having lost, the most important person you've ever known, you got to get back up, and you got to keep trying,
Yeah.
so it's what I do. It's what my wife would have said. And so I just listened to what she would say, and she would say, get up and do it. So I did.
Oh, you did. Can you tell us what song we'll hear you sing on Tuesday and why you picked that song?
Let's just say that there were moments in the song where I lost, I kept it together, and afterwards I kind of lost it. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah,
Okay, all right.
it was a challenging song to get through, but I did it.
Okay. Well, we will certainly be tuned in on Tuesday to see how it goes. But in the meantime, I do want to talk to you about your own music, right? Like this is the thing that you've done for years. You mentioned being a part of two bands. You write your own music too, which is really impressive. Not every singer can say that. And you have a song called "Lost"
Mhm.
about dealing with grief. Could you speak a little bit to that, and also how you hope that through that music, through that song, you might help other people?
Well, I wrote Lost about 2 months after my wife passed, and I couldn't really sing or play the guitar. I play piano and guitar, and I just couldn't do it. I just was too painful. But one day I woke up and I picked up the guitar, and it was just this melody came to my head, and I started, performing the melody, and then I asked myself, how I felt at that moment, and as any good writer, I never claimed to be a good writer, but just from having heard, what real writers do is that you draw from what you're experiencing. At that moment, 2 months after her passing, I just felt completely lost was the only word that I kind of came up with.
Yeah.
And so I wrote about it, and it was healing. It was painful, but I got through it. And the lyrics are, like a boat on the sea. I've been tossed. I feel lost, and so it
Mm.
was exactly how I felt at that moment.
Yeah.
And having just leaned in, when you lean into what you're feeling, when you are honest about where you are, and you have the ability to kind of move through it. I think songwriting for me, I don't think it was really a decision I had to make. It was just something that I did, and it kind of came naturally. And being able to express those feelings, being able to be honest with myself, helped me get through that very, very hard first 6 months.
Yeah. You told me that Christina had the ethos of, just do it. Like you can do it, make it happen. How proud would Christina be of what you've done, particularly in this last year and a half, and the example really that you're setting for your beautiful children?
Oh, it's a good question. I hope she'd be extremely proud. I know she would. I think she was proud of me if I could just figure out how to use a smartphone. So, so she always. I was
Like
like,
wife married to a husband.
she's like, she was proud of me if I, showed up to pick the kids up on time. So I think this would be, I definitely get, an extra helping of cake if she saw me now. But I used my wife's example as a human being, as a coach, as a mother, as just an amazing friend and wife to kind of push me through. My uh, she lived an amazingly beautiful life, and she was a amazing, giving. She was the best person I ever met,
Mhm.
and so I'm inspired by her still, and I can feel her talking to me, and I know that's what she would want me to do. So it's not real, people say, hey, you're doing all these great things, your wife would be proud. It's just the answers become pretty obvious, like job one is to take care of my kids, and job two is to, try to make myself happy, while taking care of my kids, and everything else will fall in place.
Beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. I want to ask you about the music. From what I understand, you worked with Kobe Bryant to create the music for the podcast, The Punies. How did
Yes.
that come about?
I was their teacher. I was the girls' teacher,
Okay.
and one day I took a field trip with my Spanish students down to San Diego, and I got a call from Kobe. He says, "I want to come. Is it okay if I come?" I said, "Yeah, you
Yeah.
can come." And so we just started talking. We started talking music, and he wanted to hear what I had written. And his question was, what are you doing teaching?
Mhm.
And I love teaching, but he said, you're going to come work for me. And so through the music, we became, I started working for him.
Mhm.
And once he kind of felt comfortable with me as a songwriter, as a lyricist, he kind of just gave me free reign and said, "This is your project, go." And so through that friendship, that's how Christina became the basketball, coach. And
Yeah.
Christina and I were both were the coaches, the co-coaches at the school that we taught at,
Mhm.
and his daughters were on our team. They were, just awesome kids.
Yeah.
And he said, I guess he was impressed with us as more with her as a coach and more with me as a musician, because she was a much better basketball mind than I was. And
Mhm.
Kobe just said, "You stick with the music, and we'll let Christina do what she's good at."
Yeah, sure. And I've had the pleasure, the privilege of speaking with a few people who have had the pleasure and privilege of working with Kobe. In this last year and a half, I've spoken with them, and I'm curious to know from your perspective, what was it like working with him? Obviously, he had an amazing work ethic. He was extremely kind. You mentioned a friendship with him. What was that dynamic like between the two of you?
Co- he was a incredibly creative guy, and he had visions on how things would go. But sometimes it would be like he just go, "Just do your thing," and I'd say, so I'd come up with these ideas, and he'd say, "I don't like it." So there was some conversations that we had to have that were, it's like, I need you to give me direction. Tell me what it is you want. And
Mhm.
but when you got something that he liked, he was like,
Yeah.
it was like, it's like you felt like you just were on cloud nine, because he was so appreciative, and he was so like positive about your abilities, and the things that you could do. And he was really great to work with. He was demanding, and I wrote probably, over the course of 2 years, I probably wrote 60 80 songs, just like, and I had to do it on a timeline. So it was like, he held my feet to the fire. It was like, Christina would take the kids, get out of the house. I need to sit here. And I would sit there for days just coming up with ideas. And sometimes he'd like it, and sometimes he wouldn't. And if he didn't like it, you got back to work, And
Yeah.
so it was like, but I just wanted to do a good job. And I thought and I was really proud of the work that we did. And it was, it was a great time. It was a great time.
It's beautiful. Of course, the entire world mourned the events of January 26th. And, y- I cannot even begin to imagine how difficult it is for you to go back to that day. But if there was something that you could share with the world about Christina and about who she was as a wife, as a mother, as a woman, what would you hope that we understand about who your wife was?
Mm, my wife put she was beautiful, she was talented, she had every gift in the world, just from personality to athleticism and intelligence and compassion. And in spite of all her gifts and all the things that she was the most humble human being, and she always put others first before herself. She was as beautiful as she was. She on the inside, she was she was just the person that you knew was there for you. She was. I mean, it was interesting because my wife had supported me for our whole relationship, 15 years, and I had the opportunity the last year and a half, 2 years, to really support her. I said, "This is a great opportunity for you. Go. You need to go." And it was hard for me to let go. I don't, it's hard watching three babies. We had a year, we had an infant,
Yeah.
but I had this 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an infant. And here I was, and she'd be gone at night. She'd be gone on the weekends. She'd be, coaching. But in letting her go, I had that year and a half to really show her that I, I could return the favor that she had done so
Mm.
so adamantly for me.
Yeah.
And it was like we had really reached a place in our lives where I was going to give up. I was going to say, this is your chance. I'll support you 100% because I trusted her and I loved her. And so she taught me how to support people, and she taught me how to be a better person. So being able to support her as she had supported me, you know, was a great gift, and
Wow.
she gave me that gift. She was just an amazing human being.